Hello. Rather than a full end-to-end demo, the artifacts in this material are designed as building blocks to allow you to demonstrate Agile integration architecture with App Connect Enterprise on IBM Cloud Private in a number of ways. In this example, we explore the concept of delivering a single integration microservice based off of an image that has been built as a standard operating environment, i.e. it has fixed configuration. The SOE image, shown here in the repository with very small font, is based off Ubuntu, has ACE version 11 installed, an MQ client, and a fixed configuration. This fixed configuration could be monitoring profiles, it could be pre-canned error handling flows. In our example, we've used an API that we've written, which is just a liveliness probe. But that liveliness probe will exist in every container for ACE that is built, plus the microservice that our developers are developing on top. So our developer 1 of microservice 1, he is literally an ACE developer. He's not getting overly involved in deployment and build. So he builds a message flow, a microservice that's going to do a piece of work, and he checks that bar file containing that individual microservice into a GitHub repository which has a build Helm release pipeline associated with it. Okay, so let's have a quick look at that. If we go on to ICP, we can see we have a number of containers. So these containers have been pre-built by my pipelines, and we'll see those later. Here's our standard operating environment. So this is our container, which is our base for our organization. It's Ubuntu, ACE version 11, an MQ client, and then it has fixed configuration. It has a service inside of that is not our microservices. I've run my demos a few times, so I actually have 2 other containers on board, one for microservice 1 and one for microservice 2. Okay. If we go take a look at microclimate, microclimate is where we are actually setting up our build pipelines. So this is a Helm release build pipeline, which is leveraging the GitHub repository, and it is standing up a pipeline in Jenkins to actually go and build and deploy that Helm release. This is my organization on GitHub. It has all of the artifacts for all of the demo material, all of the build and the microservices code, and everything else that we need to set this all up on ICP and go do the testing. In this example, what we're doing is we're going to do a Helm release of an individual microservice. So we can go into our Helm release. And if we just go and check the values, you will see that last time this was run, we actually used microservice number 1. Okay, so microservice number 1, its image was called and run up on top of ICP. Here's that job that ran. Okay. So we can see that it's been successful, and we can see microservice 1, its pods are run up, everything is up and ready to execute. Okay, and if we go and look at the Helm release, we can see it's there running already. If we go look at the services, we see we're running it with 2 extra replicas. If we go down to our service, we can see we've got our HTTP server, we've got our web UI. I've already opened the web UI, and we can see that what we've got instantiated before we even start is our liveliness probe, which was based upon our standard operating image, plus our microservice number 1. So the second image was based upon the earlier and consequently has both services inside of it. Okay, we can do a quick test on the liveliness probe. It really just returns a timestamp saying it was from the ACE server, and we've got a timestamp and the name of the server in there. Okay, Right, so we can see that it works, right? And this was pre-canned. So now what we actually want to do is say, well, why don't we use the same build pipeline to deliver another Helm release, but this time for our second microservice. So let's go and get that done. Here we are back in our GitHub source. We'll simply edit this file. There are many ways that you might interact with Git, but for speed, I'm just going to edit it here. We're going to tell the Helm release to deliver microservice number 2. Commit that change. And then in the Jenkins file, we'll just give the Helm release a different name so we don't trample all over the existing one, which we can leave in place. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we've got microclimate set up. It's obviously got our pipeline open already. This was the previous run. I can go back and log in. Okay. And we can kick that off. Okay, you should see that work dispatched. We can go pull up the console log. Watch the build run through. We can see it's now doing microservice number 2. It should run through pretty quickly. That's been successful. If we go back and now look at our Helm releases, okay, we have a second Helm release now for microservice 2. Okay, we go down to his services. Bring up his web UI. And we'll see we have microservice 2, and again we have our liveliness probe because we were built from that standard operating environment. Okay, so microservice 1 running in one release, independently microservice 2 running in another release. Okay, and if we'd like to go and test microservice 2, we just need to find out his URL. So if we go back to here, to his HTTP listener, the easiest way is just to click on that and actually get the URL. And then we can just use a REST client to pop that in. Okay, too many HTTPs. Test microservice 2, send it hello from Dave. And we get back hello from microservice 2. Okay, so if we look back and just wrap that up, we already had deployed into ICP for an individual testing our microservice number 1 with its liveliness probe as part of the standard operating environment. We've then simply changed 2 parameters in our Helm deployment pipeline for an individual microservice, and we've asked it to run up and deploy microservice 2. And it's done that based upon, again, that standard operating environment image, and we're able to go and test that. Okay, so that's just an example of how we can set up these pipelines in order to iteratively build. And you can imagine if you have developer 2 wants to change his code, he changes his code, he pushes it up through GitHub, makes it available to the Helm release pipeline. That pipeline can be run, and his microservice is replaced. He can continue to test individually. When we come back, we'll look at a more comprehensive deployment of a full microservices application leveraging integration.